Welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. We got a great one. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. Real quick, join us in the Freedom Zone, ladies and gentlemen. Click that join button and come on in. For less than the cost of a cup of coffee per month, you get every single daily video with 0 Google ads. That in itself is worth the price of admission, not to mention all the extra content. So come on in and get it. Let's take a look at what the market's doing. $2.86 trillion market cap for crypto. The market's off 0.8%. Bitcoin 84,000 plus, 1,900 plus for Ethereum. We see XRP at 238 at the number 4 spot. It's up 0.2 on the 24. It's off 2% on the 7-day. Range of price is between 237 and 242. I think you're going to enjoy the technical analysis we pulled for you to see today. By the way, you know what? How about this, ladies and gentlemen? It's XRP Las Vegas. Did you get your ticket? Because they're flying off the shelf. Take a listen.
XRP community, the SEC versus Ripple case is over. Now the path is clear, and the celebration at XRP Las Vegas 2025 just went 10x. And you need to be there May 30th and 31st at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. Hear from White House Crypto Council members on stage, including Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Giancarlo. You'll also hear from Dr. Christopher Brummer from Blueprint. And one lucky builder developer will win a $25,000 prize for the best Web3 project idea. Go to the EZA app to register for your chance to win $25K. The excitement is building for XRP Las Vegas 2025, the world's largest XRP conference. Get your tickets now and lock in.
Lock in is right, no doubt about it. And look at this update right here that we have for you. I want you to see this. Will you take a look at this TI project? Shout out to Tyler. Look at what he's got going on right here. Look at all these dog tags we got made for everybody who's coming. And there's something special about them that you don't know yet. Did you get your ticket? This is going to be massive. It's record numbers already. I can't even imagine what the final number of attendees is going to be. Don't miss this event, ladies and gentlemen. I'm telling you, make the investment into yourself for the 2 days and come find out what everyone else has known. Let me tell you, we have some of the largest return percentages of attendees that you could ever wish for at an event. There's no question about it. Get your ticket, xrplasvegas.com. We start right here. Eleanor Tarrant is off to a tear on her new gig. Shout out to her. She's the host of Crypto America. Give her a follow there. If you told me 10 years ago that I'd be glued to my phone watching a bunch of securities lawyers educate the government about how to regulate technology code on a Friday afternoon, I'd have said you were crazy. Yet, here we are. I feel the same way. But get some of this while I stretch. You know who this is right here? That's Dr. Chris Brummer, baby. That's who that is. And he's going to be on stage interviewing Brad Garlinghouse in a fireside chat. You're not going to want to miss it. Get your ticket. First time Brad Garlinghouse has been on stage at XRP Las Vegas. He's been there every single year. He'll be on stage this year. Don't miss it. Translation here, ladies and gentlemen. The U.S. Treasury Department lifts economic sanctions against Tornado Cash, a major victory for privacy-focused projects such as Midnight Network, Cardano, ADA. You know what? Look, this is software code. I'm glad that they're dropping this because it tells me the U.S. government, this is my translation, the U.S. government only does this if they have a plan to put in place for digital asset regulation. That's why this is happening. And it tells me that they're not scared of this software code anymore. They have got the plan to know how to embrace it and let it thrive and flourish. Meanwhile, The U.S. Treasury payments processing system is undergoing maintenance from 6 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time today, right now. Online payment processing will be unavailable today between 6 and 10 p.m. Eastern Time. You know, one has to wonder, these are the things that start getting all of us bugaboo, right? Well, we know that Ripple's involved with FedNow, right? Are they doing this? Is this it? I don't know. It could be very anticlimactic, to be perfectly honest, but it is something to pay attention to. Stevie XRP says the U.S. Treasury payment system processing is undergoing maintenance. He's thinking the same thing. Could it be? I don't know. But what I do know is it being on the heels of Watcher Guru's claim to be hacked, and that the post went out that said Swift is nearing an agreement with Ripple to use XRP for cross-border payments with billions of XRP secured in escrow as liquidity reserves. Watcher Guru came out 1 minute later, maybe 2, and said, hey guys, we got hacked. This is not a real post. Someone hacked us and put this out here. But the problem with that is that it was Facebook and X that both got hacked simultaneously, and it does seem fishy. Also, quite the recovery time for that hack. And it also happened to be true. Something just doesn't add up. I think Phil has it right here. Phil Spin says, the recovery time is very fishy indeed. Typically, accounts are not recovered that fast. And I say, exactly. No one gets hacked and gets their account back that fast. This feels like a press release that went out too soon. Can't prove it, but that's what it feels like. And then here, just 24, 36 hours later, the U.S. Treasury system is down for payments. And then to add to the whole Swift Ripple thing, rumor hack from Watcher Guru, we do know that there's publications from Swift.com that recognizes financial services focused on blockchain firms such as Ripple Labs could also play major roles here, right, in the international trade ecosystem. So, all of these things may be a hack. It could genuinely be a hack. Maybe we're wrong about the way we're interpreting that. Maybe the payment system for Treasury isn't that. But, we do know all these other things that tell us, well, we should pay attention just in case. And don't forget, while we're looking at all of this, that conversation has been based around potential utility, right? Swift, utility, Treasury payments, utility. Should they choose to ignite an opportunity to introduce a market infrastructure using digital assets, right? Value protocols, XRP, and other assets. We already know on the custody side and investment product side, there's at least 18, this is a list of 17, there's a list of 18 ETFs now, and we're waiting for XRP BlackRock ETF to be announced, which was rumored just days ago from Scott Melker. So think about what's taking place now, and then we got to get into it. I want you to listen now. Now think about more investment opportunity that locks up the asset XRP. Corporate Treasury. Remember when Workforce or Worksport just announced that they were a truck company or something, or a small company that does things for trucks or something like that? And then they said, you know what? We're going to put XRP in our corporate treasury. It wasn't a ton, but it was meaningful. Well, think about the idea of that happening at scale. Take a listen really quickly here.
You had basically an executive order in the US, declaring a strategic reserve around Bitcoin first and foremost, but digital assets at large. So I would say, the path is sort of like paved for more adoption across corporate treasuries as a result, or certainly as an aspect of that as well. And so look, companies are just increasingly realizing that digital assets like Bitcoin offer a hedge against inflation. And by integrating them into their treasury management, they can reduce exposure to, traditional market risks as well. In 2025, so I believe we'll see more companies, especially in sort of like the mid-market segment, following the lead of larger tech firms, We're also seeing companies like Worksport, for example, adopting digital assets like Bitcoin and XRP for payments and treasury management, which showcases really the dual benefit of treasury diversification and operational efficiency. And so I think this shift has the potential to fundamentally change corporate treasury management at large, bringing basically new efficiencies and just helping companies to optimize for things like liquidity.
So with native digital assets like Bitcoin and XRP, tokenized real-world assets, stable coins, are we going to get to a fully digital corporate treasury? Not in 2025, probably.
Yeah, probably needs a few quarters more.
There you have it. But exciting nonetheless that we see this turn into something. Look, we're seeing states do Bitcoin strategic reserves, right? Obviously, they're going to add other digital assets later. Why wouldn't they, right? You're seeing corporate treasuries. You're seeing ETFs. What does all of it mean? There's a reason for this direction that we're showing here. We know that the White House, Bo Hines, what did he say? Well, this is what he said.
Here's some tremendous ideas about how we could do it. I just don't want to box us in yet to what that actually looks like, because I
asking about how to get Bitcoin without taxing the U.S. citizen.
want to be able to hear from everybody. And I think that's one thing that's different about this White House is we welcome in new ideas, innovative solutions, and it's no different the way that we're running our office.
Well, other assets. I know we have Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Solana, Cardano that were considered and brought up, maybe a part of the stockpile, right? Are you guys considering other crypto assets? And with the ones that are in those 5, what made you decide on those?
Well, first I'll just say the reason that we structured the SPR like we did is because Bitcoin is different. It's unique. It's a commodity, not a security. As David likes to say, it has the immaculate conception, meaning that there's no issuer.
And that isn't true.
It has intrinsic stored value, and it's traditionally accepted stored value as well. And so, you know, we wanted to make that distinction when we created Digital Assets National Stockpile along with the SPR. You know, the reason that those 5 tokens were listed or mentioned is truly just based on market cap, the 5 largest market caps in this space. But for us, we still want to welcome and encourage innovation across, you know, many ecosystems in this space. And we understand that Bitcoin is the grandfather. We understand that it undergirds a lot of what's happening here. But that's not to say that, you know, we don't welcome these other players to continue to innovate, build on the chain, and, you know, create just new technology for Americans to interact with. I mean, we're extremely supportive of that. I think that's one reason why we wanted to mention the Digital Assets National Stockpile and create that as well.
You've mentioned.
How do you get the assets for the U.S. government without it costing the taxpayer? That is the question. And my question is, and shout out to Alvarez on TikTok who brought this up as well, and Lee for sending it to me, I think it was, will the U.S. government issue Bitcoin and XRP bonds direct from the U.S. Treasury for digital assets it wants to hold so it doesn't cost the taxpayer to hold crypto? I think it's more likely the answer is yes. And I have this right here to show everyone. I put this diagram together. How will the U.S. government acquire crypto assets like Bitcoin and XRP without costing the taxpayer money? 1, the U.S. Treasury could issue digital asset bonds for Bitcoin, XRP, as well as other assets. That's the idea. This would create a great demand. Now, let me see if I can even just edit this. It won't let me edit. It's too late. So spelling was off. I fat finger my spelling all the time. I'm very disgusted with myself right now. This would create a great demand to buy the digital asset Bitcoin XRP bonds issued by the Treasury, forcing the asset to be bought up and placed with a qualified custodian. Here's the illustration. U.S. Treasury issues digital asset bonds without costing taxpayer. Here's the taxpayer or whoever wants to hold it. They buy the XRP bond. It goes in a qualified custodian, taking it off the market. Same thing for Bitcoin and any other digital asset. Then you have, don't forget that digital asset ETFs create a big demand and require the underlying asset to be placed with a qualified custodian too. This creates more product offers in the market for locking up and holding the asset long term. Digital asset ETF demand. Here's the customer. There's the ETF. More assets going locked up into the qualified custodian, right? Now, then you have investment versus market makers. This is the component we've yet to see. Don't forget about the big component that is still missing at scale: utility. Market makers will need XRP and other assets with utility for everyday use for payments. The organic upward pressure through demand of the investment products, which would be digital asset bonds versus the ETFs, and then versus utility from market makers and participants. This will be so massive, I believe, that it will shatter the paradigms of the cryptocurrency market we know today. For fun, ask yourself what happens if the U.S. Treasury announces they will use Ripple custody for the digital assets in the U.S. government that the U.S. government holds. And 10, then ask yourself, what does XRP look like if we find out that the XRP ledger is being used for the FedNow system too? Lots to speculate on. Lock in. Ultimately, what I see here is the opportunity for investments versus the market maker use every day to put an organic upward pressure for demand on the underlying assets. And if the U.S. Treasury decides to issue bonds to provide exposure so they can acquire these assets without costing the taxpayer money, this market's about to explode to a level we could never even imagine. Chad Steingraber here sees this, year 2, day 246. He grabs my post here. He says, digital assets can be acquired at no expense to the country's citizens as a digital bond. Could be created, backed by the asset. Think of it as a government-issued ETF that has an absolute guarantee. It's exactly the way to see it. Anyone could buy the XRP digital bond, then the U.S. buys the XRP. This sounds like a plan. And if you remember during the court case in the early days of 2020 and 21, we entertained the idea of a security designation and of XRP becoming a bond. And this would be a different way for the government to issue bonds on these assets and create an enormous demand for them. I told you you're going to like the technical analysis today. Crypto Bull says XRP to $12 by April 18th. Oh, I love that. And I'm here for it. I know you are too. Egg Rag Crypto says the green chart is telling us beautiful things, and you wonder why he's so bullish. Together we rise. He shows you the wedge. There's the wedge from 2017, 2018. We could have another leg up, and if we do, it could take us to that $8.50, $13, and $27 on that next leg if it repeats what it did in 2017, 18. We got to hang on to find out. And then there's this, Dark Defender, feeling very bullish as well. He says, I want to share my update on the monthly structure we previously used, along with the volume figures he shows on the side here, and basically saying that the median has been 239 since November. So staying above is crucial for XRP. The main argument for XRP not exceeding $10 levels is that it is essential to use exponential techniques. So in other words, if you're stuck at $10, then you do not apply exponential Fibonacci levels. XRP has the potential to go beyond $5 to $8 levels by extending its wave 3 length, which could end up at $77.70 this bull run. Wave 5 figures are 3 digits. However, as for median levels after touching $8, we can expect an XRP to run towards $18 to $23 levels. The RSI and other indicators, as well as historical patterns, applications, support this approach. So after touching $8, he's saying even on the short side, 18 to 23 is the next stop. Come on in. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. We're going into the freedom zone, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you will join us today. We're going to get into it. Not financial advice. Come on in. All right. Well,